Greetings! Welcome to the Devlog for hot dogs, horseshoes, and hand grenades. We're going to start off as always with a quick sound check. Make sure speakers aren't up too high. Wonderful. So what have we got for you this week? Well, as you can see, I am standing somewhere new this week. I decided that I would give you folks a bit of a preview of something I'm working on. I'm not going to tell you what this scene is for yet. I know that's a little maddening, in part because I want to focus on the scene itself, how I'm putting it together, and how the way that it's been constructed is basically its own sort of proving ground, if you will, for how I want to build scenes in the future. As many of you know, most of the scenes in H3 are getting a little long in the tooth. Some of them were built before I implemented many core systems in the game, or just learned a lot of important things about how to best make scenes for this game. So let's take a little tour and let's talk about some cool stuff. So this scene is called Sandtrap. It's basically a 150 meter radius circle with obviously an extended sort of skybox volume at distance. Let's move back here. We've got a central structure. I just have the item spawner temporarily there, and a very sort of Dwell magazine style garage with it. And then there are three sort of plinth locations that have other content on them. Some shades and walls over here. Let's actually run over to this sniping tower. It'll give us a good vantage point to the rest of the map. Aren't you looking pretty? Jump up onto there. Come up our stairs. I'm going to reverse here so I don't tangle myself up in my cable. Wonderful. Got a change in ambient sound up here. So here we can see, oops, that's me falling off of there. I was trying to get a good view. I should put a railing there. So you can see the other three areas, as well as basically where you see the road end there, and over here is where the actual play space ends. The rest is sort of just distant wrap, and that's for a bunch of reasons. Once again, I'm not going to cover today. But this scene in a big way is about me figuring out a new production workflow for things that I want to do in the future. All of these scenes are well, for one, the lighting looks as nice as it does because it is rendered with a different light mapper called Bakery that I have been learning. Let's pop over to the actual building so you can see what I'm talking about. Looks mighty pretty in here. Look at that. And the entire structure has been designed to play nicely with all of the systems that I need things to play nicely with. The way the collision is set up is as a series entirely of sort of convex boxes that have all been tagged correctly. So you will actually hear, let's get a suppressor so you can hear. A lot of folks don't seem to realize that there actually is fairly granular collision audio on a per material basis in this game, because I'm a doofus and I didn't really build a scene that really shows it off. So if we listen to these casings, we can hear different collision sounds for them. So this is very much a scene that I am trying to design to actually really showcase a bunch of systems and behavior that has always been in the game, but has not been sort of highlighted very well. The structure is also, it's several floors of, man, I would love to own a house like this. We got some tile floor here. We've got a basement area here. Sort of has a, I don't know, Kill House chic kind of aesthetic to it, with some interesting angles Some pretty lighting. I love how pretty the lighting in here makes all of our held objects look. Let's head upstairs. Feel like I'm doing an episode of like Cribs here. Ooh, let's check out the garage. It's nice and dimly lit in here. Everything is set up nicely to use the varied reverb zones. It's more evident with just a plain gunshot versus oh, love those collision sounds. Let's head up. I keep getting lost. There we go. Let's head upstairs here. You've got a second floor. A bunch of really interesting sort of like composite sight lines. Like if you're coming up here, there's going to be several different places, regardless of engagement angle, where there could be something interesting. Something that I'm actually trying to take into account in terms of designing more interesting multi-use spaces is ensuring that sort of routes through the space aren't just useful for one sequence or one conceptualization of how the level's being used, but for many. And then here's our third floor here. Looking pretty. Yeah. Looking gorgeous. And then something some of you may have noticed is it looks like there's actually glass in these windows. That's because there is. A little primitive. I don't know how on earth that got caught up there. That's physics being physics there. Got some of that magical floating glass, I guess. Thanks for that. Oh, uh-oh. Oh, that one is broken. That completely bugged out. I must have a missing reference on. That's it. This is the triple wide pane. Wouldn't be an H3 Devlog without something breaking. There we go. Wonderful. So that's one of the things I put in. I know there are games that have done glass way more impressively, way more complexly, but in a really big way, I've tried to make things as simple and as lightweight and performant as possible, because in an environment like this, someone could be tossing grenades in, people could be setting off multiple remote explosives, so the system has to be essentially able to handle you blowing up every single window in the building at once without imploding or exploding. So I have to be a little more conservative with my system design for it. So yeah, that's what I've got going so far in terms of this scene. Now let's take a look at two other systems that I have to sort of manually engage here that I'm roughing in. These are first drafts of these. These have not been tuned for performance at all, purely for functionality and for data structures and integrating with other systems. So let's activate the first one of those. So we are back, and the first system that I wanted to show you folks is that I have finally roughed in a system for actual bullet impact sounds, and they are also per material. So for reference, here's me just firing this off into the air, and then here is it into the ground. I need to knock that suppressed reverb down a bit indoors. It's a little much. What's especially fun about this, if we head out here, and I'm going to turn on bullet trail so that I can try to get this to actually show. What I want to demonstrate is that when you've got ricochets going off, you can really hear them now. Let's try to get a multi-hit shot going. Oh. I might have actually dampened the sound a bit too much for recoils last night. Let's see. Yep. I've dampened it a little bit too much because we should have heard those more. But they're a little too pronounced, and that like a slow moving, after it had bounced like 3 or 4 times round, was still making a full volume impact sound. But I think I've knocked it down a little bit too much. But we do. Wonderful. This fountain here has been my little place of serenity the past week, playing around with. Far too much fun. So I got impact sounds working. Still need to obviously tune the final volumes of them, but what it immediately sort of brought to bear for me was how odd it is, and that the game doesn't have any impact decals on generic environment surfaces. And so I also did a first rough implementation of bullet decals. Let's actually turn off the trails. So one of the challenges of bullet decals in any sort of game is basically how do you draw them really efficiently, and how do you have the decal properly mix with the environment the way that it's lit. Certain types of games have lighting and rendering setups that make this really easy, and some of them have ones that make it really hard. And the problem with H3 is that there's like 6, maybe 7 completely different ways that I have lit scenes over the course of this game. And so trying to find a decal setup that would be efficient and actually work in every scene has been... It's every time I've tried, I've run into a brick wall with it and sort of abandoned it, and finally sort of struck on some inspiration on it. These are this is the other thing that is really fun about this environment. This is just drywall, and what that means, as you can see here, is that shots coming in are going to be striking more than one surface. So there's going to be all sorts of opportunities for combat scenarios in environments built this way, of like coming around and like peeking a corner and just John Wicking your target through the wall. I think that can be a verb. It should be a verb. So yeah. So we've got that style of decal. We've got the wood ones. What else do we have in this scene? We've got the tile style ones there. I believe I've got a different one on. Yep, that's the brick style ones. Here's the wood ones up close. And so the trick for this actually was to sort of fake it. These are rendered in about the simplest way possible. These are pure multiplicative decals, but the way the decals have been authored is that visually the sort of lighting is already sort of pre-illustrated into the decal texture. It does mean that from certain angles they don't look perfectly correct on the floor, but on pretty much any wall they look good enough. They're pretty chill, which I like. I personally don't like bullet decals that are in the have this really sharp, prominent, hard edge and are super depthy. And I think these really match the sort of restrained aesthetic that you get with the rest of this environment. Too much fun. And it's, once again, this is about sort of making systems and content that actually showcases the systems that are in the game that a lot of people aren't aware of, like the way the Ballistics system works. So much fun. Let's actually head back out to our fountain for a moment. After blowing that out, let's see, which way is it? I believe it's over here. Doot, doot, doot. Having a lazy day. And I think in this case, for 9, the way my water simulation for ballistics is not realistic. I was never able to quite tune it, but if we stick it in there, we can get a bullet decal beneath the water. But the water, at least for 9, manages to stop it before it hits the bottom. Oh, that is too much fun. No, I've been playing around with the pistol a ton. Let's just to see what that experience will be like. Let's grab a rifle and take it up to the tower. Rifle get. All right. So I brought 2 up here. I want to bring up a 1022 just to show off that one of the sort of logics of the range between these 4 plinths was to ensure that because this is being designed as a very multi-use space, that the engagement distances hit the sweet spot between far enough away that many calibers you actually have to compensate for bullet drop, as well as use a scope, but not so far away that VR systems with less than stable hand tracking or older ones with lower panel resolutions find that it's just unpleasant to do. And I found that to be about 100 to 120 meters, which is what the distance between here to that house is. So this is what this looks at 5x. Look at that travel time. And also look at the bullet drop. Getting about 0.4 meters of bullet drop at this range. Let's try out to the fountain. Oh, wow. Super cool. And of course, if we pull out something beefier, we don't get the same kind of bullet drop. What are you at? You're at 15x. That's a bit much for this distance. There's 8x. Let's blow out a window. Jeez. Oh, I forgot how loud this is. Woo. Chills. Any more windows we can pop out here? I think we might have gotten all the ones on this side. Oh, there we go. Did I even hit that? That would be embarrassing if I didn't. Oh no, yeah, that window's gone. Whap! Good stuff. So yeah. So I hope this gets you folks excited about stuff that I'm working on in general. None of this has a sort of full ETA for getting into the game. These, as I said, a lot of the new features I'm working on, these are sketches for them. I basically did the cool, fun part where you get all the sort of positive reinforcement of like, yay, it works and it's cool, and now I have to do all of the terrible performance-oriented stuff, which is like pooling all of the decals and making sure I don't thrash the garbage collector and making sure that the impact sounds like actually sound right at all distant aspects for all material. You know, all of that stuff. But necessary for making this as cool as it can be. Woo! Chills. Anywho, let's jump out of VR and talk about what is on the docket for the near future. Yo! So, out of VR, hope all that stuff has you folks nice and excited. In terms of what I'm going to be doing basically over the course of this month, I'm still working on some back-end stuff for something I haven't announced to you folks yet, and I don't want to until I have 100% confirmed that those systems are working and that they will be scalable to produce things for, and that I haven't bitten off more than I can chew for it. So in the meantime, while I'm doing that work, I'm going to be spending most of July on dealing with the very large pile of bugs that I've accrued. I've got like 3 browser windows of like 20 tabs each of various sorts of like bugs and unwanted issues and things that I've accrued this backlog. I've got to deal with them. So I'm going to focus on that while having a sort of like chill month, throwing in a bunch of firearms, tuning up a scene, here or there. And that's but I just wanted to communicate that it isn't just that that's the only thing I'm doing. That's just something that I'm going to put probably like a day a week of effort into, so I can drop something fun for you folks to play with every other week while I'm working on some stuff that you can't see, but will be able to see when it is ready. So hopefully it will be worth the wait for you folks. So, anywho, I'm going to head off for now. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I will have I'll probably instead of calling an update, it'll be a patch build next week that will have fixes for like the stuff that's missing from the item spawner, a couple other regressions that have made it into the game, and then a whole bunch of other fixes that I'm working on. Possibly a feature preview for the impact sounds and decals. We'll see if I actually have like the pooling systems for that stuff up and running. So, anywho, I wish you all the best. Talk to you soon. Peace.